what advice do you give to students or graduates out there who are still struggling to get a job, who are still struggling to create up a business, who don't know what to do?
The student who are in tertiary and other levels is to expand their thinking about education, not to narrow education to employment.
Why is it that back then, people who used to be known as poor performers are doing well in life than people who were considered to be the best performers?
Sometimes parents or systems say this one is going to be academically, this child is academically strong. They encourage them to focus more on their academics. They do not expose them to other
things.
Entrepreneurs, they are risk takers. They don't mind about failure. The moment you start minding about failure, you will fail to start.
From the moment we learn to speak, we are being told one thing: go to school, study very hard, get good grades, get a job, and live a successful life. But there is one question that no one prepares us for. What happens when you do everything right and still doesn't work out? Because we have seen very many graduates who are unemployed. We have seen very many graduates who cannot start up their own businesses, and yet people without formal education are running very big businesses. More so, people who did not go to school are the ones employing people who went to school. So we ask ourselves, is education still worth it? Oh, we were sold a dream that doesn't exist anymore. Welcome to Rethinking Everything podcast. I'm your host, Arimpa Joan Shina, and today I'm joined by Associate Professor Henry Mutebi, who has experience in education and academia, and I believe that his perspective will help us unpack this topic. Professor, you're welcome.
Thank you, Joan, for hosting me today to talk about this important issue that is not only bothering you, it is bothering many parents, it is bothering many employers and policymakers in this country. My name is Henry Mutebi, an associate professor at Makerere University Business School. Thank you.
So, Professor, before we dive into this topic, we want to know, what is education? How would you define education? And what is the purpose of education?
There are many ways people define education. But from my perspective, education is about human capital development. How somebody, his capabilities are developed. And these capabilities, we are looking at the reasoning capability, the skill development capability, and also the ethical and responsibility capability. Because education is not being narrowed down to one thing of getting a certificate, which translates into employment.
Okay.
Where many people narrow education to employment. Education is beyond just employment or getting a job. It's developing a whole person who has the reasoning skills, who has the problem-solving skills, who has the ethical responsibility of fitting in society. That's what I look at as education.
Okay. Thank you. That makes sense, because as we are growing up, we are being told one thing: go to school and then get a job. So we always carry that perspective that education is all about getting a better job and then you live a successful life. But these days, it seems not to be the point.
You are right. Even when I was growing, we narrowed education to one thing: study, pass, get a certificate, look for a job. We weren't prepared that education is beyond getting a job. That's why we have many youth who are unemployed. Now, look at a perspective like Uganda, which has majority of youth. The population itself has majority of the youth. Actually, those who are aged between 15 to 30, they compose 31% of the population.
Okay.
So that shows you that if you only prepare people for a job, there's a mismatch between the education system, the labor market. They are not moving at the same pace. Still, narrowing education to getting a job, that's why we find them that they lack the skills needed by those who then would give them the jobs.
Okay.
Then the sector, as we are looking at the labor market, there are more non-wage jobs that might not require the education you're talking about, that might require the skills. So the waged jobs or salary jobs are limited. If I want to tell you 700,000 youth enter the labor market per year.
Per year?
Per year.
Okay.
And yet only 90,000 are able to find a job.
No, that's...
So that shift, those dynamics tell us that only getting a certificate is not enough for you to fully be successful in life. Because many join the labor market, meaning the competition is high, and the few are able to get the jobs. So that is the perspective of today that requires us to rethink. Is just getting a certificate good enough? The answer is no, although education is still worth it.
Okay. Professor, you talked about markets, you talked about labor and education, how they're not moving on the same pace. How can we strike the balance between economy, the labor market, and the education?
This is the question you are posing is a structural problem issue. And this is not only to talk about that it is a problem the government. No, it is a structural issue. When you look at the World Bank records, developing countries like Uganda, where we are, we have more non-formal activities than formal firms that can employ waged people. The private sector is more of informal sector where the formal employment do not exist. They exist, but at a less percentage. So where you have an economy that is fully almost taken over by the low productivity informal sector, where formal certificates are not really required. They might be required, but they are, because they are not able to pay the equivalent. Therefore, you find that education in such sectors is not very important. It is important, but they don't consider it. Because this speaks still to what we've always had. Why don't we have a minimum wage bill in Uganda?
That's true.
If you set a minimum wage bill, you are chasing away investors. They will not come because they don't have the monies to pay equivalent to the minimum wage that can sustain somebody. So when I go back and I say this is a structural issue, it is not only a psychological, it is structural.
Okay.
Having a match between the labor market, the education system, it is something that has to be think about to see that they move in the same direction.
Okay.
Yes.
Professor, you talked of how we have many graduates, but the jobs are very few in the market. Do you think the Ugandan education system is designed to create job seekers or job creators? Why do we have that gap?
I would say yes, but at the same time, I would say no.
Okay.
Now, why do I say yes? Many of us, parents, policymakers, we have narrowed education to performance, academic excellence only.
Okay, true.
Get a certificate, get a first class, without the corresponding attributes that make a person employable, that make somebody become independent and take on entrepreneurial skills. I know there are also bottlenecks to entrepreneurship, to somebody becoming an entrepreneur.
True.
But the first issue we have today is that parents, children, they're only focusing on passing. The holistic education, where one does not focus on getting a first class, has been lost. And that's why there's a retooling, a rethinking of the education sector currently, where we go to the competence-based, so that we equip the graduates, the learners, with competences that match the demand of the 21st century. So I would conclude by saying, yes, education currently prepares a job seeker than a job creator.
Okay, I believe that, because when you meet someone and they ask you what you do for a living, to someone who is a graduate, they always expect you to say, I am working with this organization, I'm working with this company. But the moment you say, oh, I own a small business, maybe I sell casual shoes for men, you can see someone's face a little bit disappointed. They expect you to be at a job rather than running a small business. So I think that is the issue within the society, as the graduates, and maybe the government, the education. Yeah, am I right about that?
That is the perspective, the narrow perspective many people hold up to today, that education prepares you for employment, for a job. And what entitles you to that employment is a certificate. That's why people today, they even tell you, me, I just want a certificate. They are not interested in getting the corresponding skills, the competence, the development that worth education. Because an educated person, he goes beyond having a certificate. There are many people who apply for jobs, but when they sit interview, you see they're just limited by the certificate they have. They do not have the corresponding competences that make somebody fit for either job or to start their own business and run it successfully.
Okay, I do really believe that. I do believe that. And then who do you think is responsible to close that gap of job seekers and job creators? Shouldn't it be balanced? We have more job creators so that we have more jobs for the people, for the graduates. Is it the society responsible? Is it the government responsible? Is it a personal responsibility? Who is responsible for that?
I would say we are all responsible. The government is responsible. We individual parents or stakeholders, we are also responsible as parents, as schools, where we have to change our mind and our attitude of education. And we look at education as a whole, holistic education that does not only stop at getting a certificate, but also equipping people for entrepreneurship, starting their own business, and also knowing that a job can give you a living, but may not make you rich.
True that. True.
A job will give you what makes you comfortable to live. But if you are going to multiply, make more resources, invest, then we have to rethink from where we come from.
Okay.
Yes.
That's really interesting. It's good to learn that. Professor, do you think the government invests more in our education? Do we have enough resources?
I want to first take you back.
Okay.
When we are talking about investing in education,
Mm.
I don't want to take it just as investing. I want to contextualize it.
Okay.
You know, there are benchmarks that I've seen from World Bank, from UNESCO, that demand a particular percentage of the gross domestic product or the income the government has collects to be spent on specific sectors. Now, today we are talking about education. World Bank, according to the baseline, the benchmark of World Bank, there are categories. However, the demand would be if the government public expenditure should be between 15 to 20%, what the government spends, 15 to 20% should be spent on education. Now, if we go to the gross national income, GDP, 4 to 6% should be invested in education. But when you look at the performance of a developing country, specifically our country, our motherland, Uganda, that we do not meet any of those requirements according to World Bank. So the investment in education is still low. Yet when we were growing up, we knew that education was a public good, where the government would spend more on education than individual household. Currently, today, as we are talking, education is more of a burden to the household.
Okay.
Because of that small investment that is being made of what is being collected as a country and what is spent. When you look at countries in the East African region, I think Uganda, we have the lowest budget allocation to education.
In Uganda?
Uganda.
East Africa?
In East Africa.
Wow.
So that also defines the quality of our graduates. That also defines the quality of our education. Yet, the expenditure also, when you look at what is spent on the foundation level of education, which to me and to the literature I'm exposed to, should be the foundation. We should spend more money on the foundation education. But for now, you find that parents, they are thinking about the secondary level, the tertiary level. Yes, it is so good. But even if you spend more at the tertiary level, when the foundation was not given enough investment, enough development of the childhood capability, it affects the transition from the foundational to secondary to tertiary. So, yes, the investment is still low in education.
Okay.
And that determines the quality of education. When you look at the World Bank records, Uganda, and the UNICEF records, 2025, we spend $53, approximately $53 per child. Still below.
That's still below.
Those that developing country, majority of developing country, that's what they spend per child. There are those that are spending $980, approximately $900 per child. Those middle income developing country. Now you go to the developed countries, highly developed, they're spending $7,000, about $7,000.
That's a big difference. That's a very big difference.
And that determines the quality of education you are going to offer and the quality of graduates that are going to come to the labor market. So we have focused more of performance-centered than more of experimental learning that equips the graduates with the required skills that can make them to stand alone, start their businesses, start their corporation, come up with innovations that are going to make them successful. And we have concentrated on memorization, cramming, where people get 80s, they have the first class, but they do not have the corresponding skills that are required for somebody to survive in the dynamic environment we are in. So that's what basically I'm looking out to.
Okay. Talking about the performance of students, how schools focus on students passing highly.
Yes.
We have seen some students or some people, they are good performers, but they are not so confident. Someone is a first-class student, but they cannot express themselves out there. We've had people comment during the interviews, you present your academic documents, first class, and then they ask you, talk about yourself, and someone cannot express themselves. Then we've also seen students who are average performers, but very confident. They are not so smart on the paper, academically smart, but the confidence is so high. So how do we strike the balance between confidence and performance? Because we want to produce graduates who are confident at the same time, high performers.
Yes, being a high performer doesn't mean you shouldn't be confident.
It's what is happening. Either someone is confident.
And being that somebody is not a high performer should not also be confident. I want to take you back. This comes all the way from where we come from. To me, I believe this originates from the child development stage, which starts at a home or in a home. We have grown in homes that do not empower us. I remember when I was growing up, there was no room to express yourself. God do this, you must do that. God do this, you must do that. So I can say that although we are looking at the education system, but I want to go back to the parenting styles that we have had in our previous, in homes where we've grown from. More confident children, more confident graduates. If you go back, you'll find that they were empowered from their homes. I know if you come from a background that is a little resource constrained, and those that are not resource constrained, that also can tell us your level of confidence. Because it will determine your level of exposure.
True.
If you are from a home, you have not been exposed as a child, you grow, the level of exposure is limited, you are being instructed, you are not explaining yourself, they don't expose you on solving problems that are at home. Because purposeful parents that want their children to be confident can create problem scenarios and they seek solutions from there. That's why education starts at home. Some skills you can get from school, some skills must be inculcated in us from home. Like problem solving skills. Yes, they can be grown from childhood to the primary level, secondary level, tertiary level, but the foundation at home.
The foundation really matters.
You find today, majority of the children are left, parents don't have time to take care of them when they're in those development years. So they become frightened as early as they are 6 months up to 1 year.
Yeah, true.
So that level of confidence is not developed from a home. You go to schools, still confidence is killed. You are not good at numeracy, you are not bright.
They group the subjects, eh?
You are good at memorization, you score highly. So confidence is not something that is only built at one stage. It is a gradual process of developing somebody's confidence. I don't know whether for you, when you're growing up, your parents used to tell you, you're a beautiful woman, you're a beautiful girl, to build your confidence.
African parents, they rarely say that.
They say when they tell you that you are handsome, you're beautiful, you'll become too much of them. So when you come with 50%, would they say, oh, you've done well, John, but next time I know you are doing better? They'll say you have done bad because you have not scored 80.
True.
And that kills your confidence. So confidence is not only built at one stage, it is a progression from one stage to the other.
Then the foundation really matters. Talking about the foundation, from my personal experience, the school I went to, they used to group us according to our academic performance. So that was a class for people who were known as, I can say, poor performers, and then people who were academically smart. That really killed our confidence. Imagine, you know that you put in a class where the last one's B. That kills your confidence. I don't know if schools still do it, but I don't think it's a good thing, like grouping people according to their academic performance. I think we should all be given same attention, to the extent that the people who were known as best performers were given more time. And then the average performers were kind of neglected. They wanted to focus on who is going to score for aggregates at P7. Then you, who is average performer, they wouldn't give you more time because they know, after all, maybe she's going to get 14 and 14 won't set us as a score. And that's, I think, really killed our confidence.
Yes, that still speaks to the system. The system. A structure where education was narrowed to a certificate. I remember also where I went through in my O-level. They were grouping based on performance. But what they miss out, I believe, is one thing. Yes, I have no problem with grouping people based on their performance.
Okay.
I have no problem with that. But are we able to still allocate the required resources and time to the grouping according to your groups? Because yes, there are those who are fast learners. You introduce a concept, you need shorter time to take. Yet there are also a group of learners where you cannot introduce a topic or a concept, and within a few minutes, we are at the same level. So grouping would help one thing, to help people get the concept at the level where they are, at the pace they move at. But schools don't do it in that perspective to help people.
True. I agree.
They group because they know these are going to get us first grades. And how many first grades do we have? We are going to be ranked based on first grades.
True. I agree.
So that's what they have been focusing on. But if the grouping is focused on helping people based on their ability, so they're able to get the concepts, I have no problem with grouping. But if the ultimate goal is because you want to focus on the first learners and you're able to get the first grades and you don't mind about them, then that is not good.
That is how it is always done. And doesn't it bring in discrimination, kind of?
Yeah, it brings in trauma. If you know, I've been grouped because me, I'm considered to be a slow learner, and there's no explanation to that and the corresponding effort, then I'm going to develop stigma. It is going to kill my confidence. It's going to create a gap. But I want you to know this, that we cannot all be at the same level of learning.
That's true. That's very true.
So grouping based on the level of learning, I have no problem with it. But if you're grouping to cause stigma, then I can't.
You don't support that.
I don't support that.
Then about the grouping of highly performers and poor performers, or average performers, I can say. Why is it that back then, people who used to be known as poor performers are doing well in life than people who are considered to be the best performers? Actually, there is a song for some artist, I've forgotten his name. He said, "Agari agasuru mu kibiina, kati ge gavuga Benz zi Range Rover." We always term them as bank bitches. Yeah, why is it that?
I think the issue is sometimes parents or systems say this one is going to be this child is academically strong. They encourage them to focus more on their academics. They do not expose them to other things. And that's why I said it is bad to narrow education to only employment. So in that process, you find that parents give time, allow this one to concentrate on their studies. Now, in that process, they make this one to participate in other activities like agriculture, sending them to, you're going to bring me this. Then in that process, this person is acquiring more skills than the other one. True. He's acquiring more competences. He's meeting people. He's getting a skill of socialization as one of the pillar of education. He's socializing with the people. He's connecting with the people. He makes a network. And in that process, you find he becomes an entrepreneur. And this one remains in academics. So they get to harden with life and they know that they can hustle with life. Now, those people who have been so strong in academics, they miss a chance of getting those socialization skills. They miss a chance of getting the freedom of making decisions, of countering situations in life that requires them to reason. So to me, that is the perspective I look at that. So they keep too much in academics. They don't have time to do even extra curricular activities. You do find that those who are not performing well in class are the only one who go to play football, are the one who are sent to do athletics. Okay. And we have found that those co-curricular activities have also made people richer, successful in life. So it goes back to the holistic education that we need to provide. I can be academically bright. I'm a fast learner. Doesn't mean I don't have another talent. Because not everyone that is academically strong will be successful in life. It is not.
So we have to strike the balance.
We have to strike a balance of education system so that we provide a holistic education that balances academics, balances life, balances talent. Okay. Today we have moved away from just education. We are looking at talent involvement.
Yeah, true.
My talent might be in academics, And in academics, I'm good at writing. So you develop that talent. Another one might be good. He has a good first class, but he's a good footballer. That is a talent. You develop that academically. He has the qualification, the talent he's developed. I believe you remember when we were at school, whenever you'd perform badly, they would give you a punishment of digging.
True. Slashing, actually.
Slashing.
Yeah, slashing.
And that caused these children to think that cleaning environments is bad. It is for people who have done wrong things. It is the reason as to why today you still go, you find people, they have the certificates, they are educated, they are smart, upright, but they are in an environment, they are not considering the environment. It is what had been created in us.
Okay.
They would give you a hole that going to dig is a punishment.
True.
That's why people today, they don't want to participate in agriculture. They have moved. Somebody sells an acre of land to buy a border. But what would be the productivity of an acre of land if you apply the skills and you develop it?
So, Professor.
So, as I conclude on this, my perspective is, it is how we are raised. Think that those people who perform well in class, for them they should continue. So they continue with education, and they are told, when you perform well, you'll get a job, you'll become a bank manager, you'll become a corporate person, you'll become a doctor. Now, the average are given skills that make them harden and fit in the dynamic environment. Yes.
That's really interesting. We are told education is the key to success.
Yes.
But these days, it seems very many doors are closed and the key is failing to open. Could it be that we are failing to use the key correctly to open the doors, or we are using the wrong key to open the doors to success?
I know many people think that when you're educated, when you have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree, you're going to be successful.
That is the key to success.
And I've also heard education is the key to success.
Yeah.
I want to say, yes, if education is used rightly, it is a key to success. Because education, as I've told you, the 4 core principles of education, if you acquire the human development, where you have the numeracy, you have the problem-solving skills, you will fit in society. Now, if you use education as a key to economic participation, to participate in the labor market, to participate in whatever is being done, for a job, for starting a business, you get those skills, then you will succeed. But also, you can use your education as a socialization mechanism. We have seen people who go to universities, who go to secondary schools, they acquire the connection skills very well. I want to tell you, you don't have network, you might not succeed in life.
Talking about network, there is a comment I read on Twitter.
Yes.
Someone said that education is the padlock and connection is the key. That's what someone said, and it was really interesting.
Yes, I would take that perspective. But even when you are educated, you need people. How would you know that there is a job here? How would you know that this business can do well? Even if you start a business, how would you know that I need such a skill in this business to make it progress? So education, as you put the title, is education still worth it? Education is still worth it, but not in a narrow perspective.
Okay.
Education will make you adaptive. Education will give you those skills that you need to fit in society. Now, you have also seen this, that now the more people become educated, the more unethical they become. Education is supposed to give us that moral reasoning to understand on how to fit in society, to relate with people. So I believe that if I'm educated, I should be able to juggle life. I should be able to work in a window, sell second-hand clothes, and I succeed by taking records, by knowing my customer, how I handle customer, how I stock, how I sell, how I price. But many people think being educated is to sit in an office.
White-collar job.
White-collar job. I don't narrow education to a white-collar job. It can entitle you to that, it can give it to you, but you can get it and still you fail because you lack the connection skills, you lack the other competencies. You cannot work with people. So if you take education as a broad spectrum that has those 4 pillars, the human capital development, capacity development, the problem solving, the introduction to economic participation, the socialization, and the freedom to make decisions appropriately that connect you to society, then there's no reason as why you do not succeed with education.
Thank you. Talking about the educated, we have this perspective. Oh, how will people see me with my bachelor's going to Owino to get clothes for selling? How will people see me who has a master's, selling ghee? We have that mindset of we were created for bigger goals. We are created for bigger offices instead of going to Owino, instead of selling, maybe avocados on the road. We are just not made for that. That's what we think.
What's a big goal?
The big goal
Being
is
seated in an office?
No, to make money, but we want to make money through white collar.
There's no money in white collar jobs. No.
Mm.
White collar jobs will give you money to fit, to survive.
So we need to change that mindset.
The mindset has to change.
Okay.
How many entrepreneurs, rich people who have grown to become rich, who have become rich from salary earning?
True.
So what we think, like maybe selling, as we've talked about, selling tomato.
Yeah, tomato.
Somebody
Yes.
can grow from selling tomatoes and become an entrepreneur who starts a manufacturing farm that can turn the tomatoes, he adds value and he sells tomato sauce. Because he will be able to acquire those skills. He's able to get those skills. He's able to know. He's able to develop the capability. Now, if you are educated and you start small, you go, let me say, to Owino, you start selling second-hand clothes, then you transit the value chain from selling second-hand clothes to setting up a manufacturing farm. You already have the skills. You have the background. You're educated. You know to take records. You can be able to connect, do market research. So, may I believe we have to change the mindset. We have seen people who are educated, they cannot survive.
True.
Because they think, how can they see me with a bachelor's degree selling something?
True.
No.
How will they make?
We
how
have
they
to
see me
change
moving around
the
with
mindset?
Jesus,
And I believe we are taking the right decision with a new curriculum redesign, where we are focusing on the competence that people acquire, than having a good certificate that has AAAs, but I cannot negotiate, I cannot sell, I cannot talk to people. Yes.
True. Professor, why is it that people who didn't go to school or who did not receive formal education, they tend to do well in business management than us who went to school and studied about business management?
This is my perspective.
Okay.
I think they have nothing to lose.
And for us who
And
are graduates,
those of us who have gone to school, we think if I start something and I fail, they will start talking. A whole professor started something and he failed. But you cannot, in business success, failure failure to fail is failure to start, to do something.
Mm.
So for them, they know,
Mm.
let me start. Even if I fail, no problem. I will start and wake up again and start again.
Mm.
Now, for us, we take too much time in feasibility studies. You are preparing so that you don't fail.
Mm.
It is okay. Planning is good. But there are times when you overplan and you fail to start. Then that you have failed.
Okay.
So they don't have much to lose.
Mm.
And entrepreneurs, they are risk takers. They don't mind about failure.
Mm.
The moment you start minding about failure, you will fail to start and you will not succeed. Although cautiously, at the back of the mind, even if he's not educated, they will still take calculative risks and they will invest in what they are able to manage.
So do you think education makes it a bit hard for us to start up a business? For us who are educated?
With the narrow perspective, the narrow mind that education is equivalent to a job, there are very few, for the years I've been at university education, where you find that people study to go and start something and improve what they are doing. They come for certificates to go and become firm. I want to use the word firm. Now I have a bachelor's, I have a master's, I'm fit for this job. They will not chase me. So the narrow education, as I've talked to you, to a job, I want to get SIPs so that in this job I'm secure. I want to get a master's to secure this job. But those that have come to acquire knowledge, those that have come to acquire skill, they even, when their performance is better, because they are not mining about a certificate, they are mining about getting knowledge, mining about getting the skills, the competence. Education becomes enjoyable. The tension is not there because if I don't get a certificate, I don't have a job. If I don't get this certificate, I'll lose this job. No. Many people go back for further studies too and secure a position where they are or for the next promotion. There is where I encountered a scenario. A student was doing masters, said, I don't want to do research, but I want a certificate. Then I said, how do you finish a master's without doing research? Now, at the end of the day, students said, no, me, what I'm interested in is
the paper.
Whether I get this research skills, I want a paper. So at the end of the day, you find that they do not focus on accumulating wealth, knowledge, but accumulating papers. And when somebody is terminated from a job, they cannot survive because they do not build the other skills, the other 4 pillars of education: the socialization, the problem solving, and the freedom. Education gives you freedom. That's why you find that, I remember at primary and secondary, they used to tell the girl child, when you're educated, you have freedom to say yes or no.
True.
Yes. Those that, not all that would say yes or no, but it empowers you. It empowers you to make deliberate, wise, informed decisions.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Professor, who should be accountable? The students, the government, the parents? Who should be accountable for that?
We are all accountable. Education hinges on the 3 stakeholders: the parents, the educators, and the regulators. So now, the 3 focus on the product, the student. So when the parents play their role, because the government is not going to come and still expose your children. The university will give experimental education that exposes students to the field. But all of that comes from the policy maker, whom I talked about, the government. So the redesign that is being made now is to help the parent play their role, the schools, and also engaging the industry. So universities that I've seen universities whose graduates are 100% employable, they engage the industry. They will, if somebody is in film development, as get the theory, he is tied, he is pressed to the industry, the practitioners, to get the practical skills. And that's where we are moving now. The universities now are demanded to redesign. We have seen the primary, the secondary, the new curriculum. Now universities are also redesigning the curriculum to ensure that the graduate we produce has those competencies that the industry demands.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it is the three stakeholders that are involved in the education: the parents, the education system, and the policy maker.
I want to talk about one of the stakeholders, the teachers.
Yes.
The teachers, they teach us about business management, how to manage a business, how to run a business, how to grow a business. How come we don't see very many teachers running very big businesses? Actually, some of the teachers, maybe they are struggling financially, they are always on strike. Shouldn't we learn from the teachers? Or shouldn't they lead by examples? Because if you're teaching me about business management, then I should be able to look up to you. But then if you're failing in business and you're my teacher, then me, the student, what do I have to do?
I would say this is a kind of provocative question. However, the rewardings are different.
Okay.
The expertise required for, now I want to speak not to a formal teacher who is at secondary level. Let me speak at an academician, professors. The competences and what we do and the rewarding are different from taking or starting a business. Now, my success is not measured in how many businesses I've started. My success is measured on knowledge development. How much knowledge have I developed that is going to be used? Now, for me to develop this knowledge, I need the practice. I need the theory. So I have to blend theory and practice. Because this theory comes from practice. And this is where many people think that universities are so theoretical. But you cannot develop a theory unless you know what is in practice.
Sure.
So the reward for a professor, the reward for a teacher is different. Now, for you, a student, I'm teaching business management, then you move from the university, you start a business and you become more successful. Your success is determined on how much money you are making.
True, yeah.
My success is determined on how knowledge generation. But that does not mean that me, a professor, I cannot also become
rich.
I cannot become rich.
Financial stable, yeah.
I can use the knowledge that I'm developing and get money. I can use the knowledge that I'm developing to sit on boards and I get money. I can commercialize my knowledge through the writing. I can be invited to give a speech, just a talk, and I'm rewarded. But although the multiplier effect of that might not be the same as somebody who starts a business sense. So I don't know whether I've answered you.
You really answered me.
But I look at the different measurement of success for a professor
And
is
for the
different
business.
from a business owner or an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Yes.
You've really answered it well. Success is measured differently. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Professor, AI is the trend. What do you think about AI in education sector?
Yeah. I believe you're talking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
The coming of artificial intelligence is good. And I cannot say people don't use it. But artificial intelligence should not take out the human-centered perspective. Like we are here talking. You could use AI to answer all your questions.
Yeah, that's true.
But you lack the human aspect of my explanation. So, universities, schools must adapt.
Okay.
And I'm using the word adapt, not adopt.
Adapt.
So that they're able to use artificial intelligence because it simplifies work. It increases productivity. So long as you are able to guide it to what you are supposed to do or to what you are doing. Otherwise, if you're just using AI in whatever you're doing, it will be garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, I've had some lecturers complain that the moment they give out courseworks to their students, a student goes, types the question the way it is, prints, and they submit to the lecturers. Do you think it's making students to overly depend on technology?
Depending on technology isn't bad. But do you know what you are depending on? Majority of them, as I've said before, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know what you are looking out for, it will give you what it thinks. But if I know how to probe it, how to direct it, how to use it, I'll get the best out of it. Because the work that I would do in a whole day, 8 hours, I can do it in 1 hour, so long as I know what I'm doing. So, entire, I'm not saying it should 100% be AI generated, but where it can simplify, increase your productivity, I have no problem, so long as you do it ethically. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, I think, universities or schools, they must develop now policies. I've seen this now in the area where I am in publications. They have redefined, they have given us new policies that if you are to publish, now your content should be this percentage AI. But if AI can generate a manuscript, can design a questionnaire, can correct data, give you data, analyze, and you write in 1 day. But that will lose the human-centered aspect. So, why the policies must come out? To ensure that AI usage is also guided and it is regulated, but within the policy framework, so that we still have the human reasoning, the human heart behind what we see, and remain natural.
Thank you so much about that. As we are winding up this whole topic, what advice do you give to students or graduates out there who are still struggling to get a job, who are still struggling to create up a business, who don't know what to do? They are lost. What they're taught at school, everything seems to be different outside school. Which advice do you give them?
As we conclude, the advice now is going to be structured in 3 parts. Now, to those who are already out, they have to redesign themselves. Because what they missed, they can no longer get it from the universities. but they can get it through understanding, going back to understand that education that I got empowered me to make networks. Then they can make networks. They can now appreciate that I can start small and grow. Because I gave you statistics that 700,000 youth enter the labor market, but only 90%, only 90,000 are able to find a job. So the 610,000,
where are they?
Where are they? So they are out in the informal sector. But majority of them have not accepted that we are out in the field. Still have hopes of getting the jobs. For Uganda alone, to match the dynamics of the labor market, we need to create 885,000 jobs per year to be able to match the labor market dynamics. But we don't have the capacity. The enterprising sector, it is still informal. Those that can give formal wage employment, they are few. What does that mean? We have to encourage entrepreneurship. Now, as we encourage entrepreneurship, we need also to think about the bottlenecks that kill the entrepreneurship motivation. That is the limited financing, the limited market access, and the high cost of starting business. If those can be worked on, and now that calls other stakeholders, the government, the policymakers, to come and look into this, so that education motivation we are talking about can also meet the corresponding needs which hinder the graduates in finding a job or starting their own business. Now, to the graduate, the student who are in tertiary and other levels, is to expand their thinking about education, not to narrow education to employment, to take education at a broader level that makes them to develop competencies, education that makes them know how to socialize, education that helps them to create freedom, to make right decisions, and also to help them solve problems and make the right decision. Not to narrow education to a certificate. Yes, because in the current 21st century, you do not have communication skills. You do not have the flexibility. You are not disciplined. Even if you get a job, you will not be successful. You are not good at time management. You are doomed. You need all those soft skills combined with the certificate, then you'll be ready for the job. And with the development in technology, you need more of the soft skills because AI cannot give you communication skills. AI cannot help you to network. So those one, you must develop them yourself. Although AI can increase your productivity by 80%, the 20% is so critical that you must have it as an individual. If you go back to the 80-20 rule, 80 can be done by automation. 20 is what drives the 80%. And that is the soft skills that a person, an individual, must have, must accumulate. Yes. So, as we conclude, I encourage the graduates, those who are still in the process, to focus on the 20, which cannot be automated. How I talk to people, how I greet people, how I connect with people, how I coordinate with them cannot be automated. No.
Okay.
So, and that's what will make them survive in the dynamic environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. This has been a very insightful conversation, and we had a lot to learn. And maybe education isn't the issue. Maybe the issue is what we are taught to believe. We need to rethink about that. Let me know what you think in the comment section and tell us what you would want us to rethink again so that we talk about it. Thank you.